Now, the white rose is one of the hardest ones to do. I used to wonder how in the world could you paint a white rose when it was all just white. But what you're actually painting is cast shadow and the shadow from one petal to another, and also what is reflected on it from other things it's about. It's surprising how many colors you actually see. My first lesson in that was my husband took pictures of fuchsias for me to paint. When he showed me the picture, there was many colors all around those fuchsias in the background. I said if they hadn't been there, the camera wouldn't have picked them up. So that taught me a very good lesson, that there is lights reflected around. All your different colors that come around. When you're going to wipe out to show veins in your leaves, remember to push in the direction that you want that vein to go. Don't have your leaf rolling one way and the veins going another. You want your colors very thin. You couldn't pile paint heavy on there because the white rose is too sheer. Now I'm going to use just a tiny bit of my American Beauty. Now I'm going back to my white flower. Here's where I'm going to pick up that. A tiny bit of green, one of my lighter greens. And also a tiny bit of my sky color. Now that looks a little strong, but by bringing my other colors in and pulling it out, I have given it a little bit of reflected color from the area around it and sets up my petal. You have to keep in mind all the time when you're painting which is the up and the down of your piece of work. If you're painting on a vase, it tells you, but when you're painting on something round, it doesn't tell you, so you have to keep that in your mind. Then you're keeping in mind where the light is coming from. You couldn't have the light hitting this rose here and the light coming in the same direction and hitting this down here, because then it would have to be coming from the opposite direction. And the only time that you get light coming from down below is when you set up the light, studied in that way, so that you have lighting from down below. If not, the light is always from above. And naturally it can be from one direction or the other, or it can be straight down. But you paint accordingly. If you painted a rose with it coming straight down, then this part of the rose is going to be very light. It's a very delicate touch in order to show any petals there when the light's shining right into it. And on this side would be the darkest area. And this rose is almost in that position, you see. I'm going to turn it to just a little tiny bit. It's going to be looking this way in the light, but a little bit on the angle. Because there is other flowers back of this flower that was in the deep pink shades. And because they're there, they have reflected some light on this. There's been a little reflection of that pink. So you pull a little of that down on it. So you see, we're thinking all the time we're painting. Paint the whole area in the tone that you're going to use for your shadow, and then cut your petals out. reason we use yellow-brown a lot is because it is a yellow, which is our sunshine color, and it has other colors reflected with it, which gives it a little depth. So there's, you get your yellow-brown. By mixing your backgrounds, reflecting the different flowers that's in different colors that's in your background, it ties it together. Where you wouldn't want a spot of pink and then go someplace else and have a spot of something else. It would be confusing, but if the whole thing harmonizes, it makes a much prettier picture. Now I have to use a little deeper color in this flower than this one, because it's behind this. Always judge the steps back you go. If one flower is in front, another one is back, maybe the leaves is next, then there's something else behind. You're going from 1, 2, 3, or 4 steps back. The farther back you get, the more elusive you get. You see less detail. Now, turn it around and take a look.